I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castorus. I'm 903 years old. I'm the man who's going to save your lives and all 6 billion people about the planet below. You got a problem with that? Good. In that case, allons-y! Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the 2007 Christmas special, Voyage of the Damned, written by Russell T Davies and directed by James Strong. This story concludes a group of stories that were all set chronologically back to back with each other, as this story follows on from the cliffhanger at the end of Last of the Time Lords, or depending on your point of view, Time Crash, and so where the TARDIS gets crash landed with the Titanic. Now this story is most notable for the appearance of Kylie Minogue, famous pop star Kylie Minogue, portraying the one-off companion. I believe her name is Astrid, which is actually an anagram of TARDIS, if those of you don't know. Now, oddly enough, I remember when, they were building up like tensions for the Christmas special, I remember hearing a rumour that Kylie Minogue was going to be in the Christmas special, but she was going to play a sexy cyber woman. This was prior to to her being announced in the story, so that was a little surprise. She didn't play a Cyberwoman. There's no Cybermen in this story, so that was very strange. Now, this story has a bit of a reputation for being one of those stories where the narrative itself isn't very good, but there's a lot of epic moments, a lot of great shots and dialogue that gets quoted around a lot. But for the most part, it's a very dull experience from a common opinion point of view. So that's like the main plot. The narrative of this is actually influenced from a Douglas Adam video game that he created called Starship Titanic. In fact, that was the original title of this story, but they couldn't get the copyright from the Douglas Adams estate, and so Voyage of the Damned became the title, in which it turns out that there is a spaceship that's taken its name, the Titanic, off the real-life ship from Earth, the Titanic, and it follows similar events to the real Titanic, of course, crashing and breaking down, and will slowly crash into planet Earth. I would also be amiss to note as well, there's also an episode of Futurama with the exact same plot, so that's kind of funny that there's just a common trope of sci-fi in the Titanic, a real-life disaster. I don't know. Maybe the James Cameron film was just that popular. I don't know. And so, yeah. There you go. So here's the cover showing Kylie Minogue there and the Heavenly Host. Oh, by the way, nobody really talks about this, but in my head, I kind of see this story as the second of a trilogy regarding service robots that are turned on their masters, as similar robots with even a very similar design appear in the 4th Doctor story, Robots of Death. And then we have this story, and then very similar robots with a very similar motivation appear again in the 13th Doctor story, Kablam. So in my head, the Robots of Death, the Voyage of the Damned, and Kablam are like a very loose trilogy, to the point where I don't think anybody who made them made any story thinking, right, let's conclude the themes of those stories. Like it borrows heavily from that from Voyage of the Damned. No, not Voyage of the Damned. This is Voyage of the Damned. It borrows heavily from the Robots of Death, with a similar premise of robots turning against their human overlords. So basically this story is influenced by a video games by Douglas Adams, the writer of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and a 4th Doctor story in the late 70s. So there's that. There's something. So yeah, so there's the cover, which I've already shown. I just realised. I know that I'm getting really bad at this, aren't I? Ha ha ha! And like always, I printed off my own DVD cover, or at least, like, I didn't put this together, but I did print it out to put on here. So anyway, let's have a look at. Let's put this together and have a look, shall we? One, two, three. There you go. So this is the cover that I've printed off. This is the from Christopher Doctor Who DVD covers, which you can find online pretty easy if you just type in on Google. And that is just stunning artwork right there. I like that. I can't remember, like, I haven't seen that image of like the what they're called again? The angels, the heavenly host. The heavenly host. I've never seen that image before, so I don't know if that was created for this cover or I don't know, but that's really cool. And you can't see it very well, but like there's this ring which is actually the scanner in the ship, which is a very nice little detail. And then you've got the spine, if anyone's interested, with David Tennant there out of focus because it's David Tennant. And then here's the back. Which gives it away that this is not one of mine that I put together because it's way too good of artwork for me to put together. So there you go. That's the covers. That's the background of the story. But let's get into the story itself. Is it any good? Well, right after the conclusion of Time Crash or Lost of Time Lords, whatever you want it, because they both have the same cliffhanger at the end of the stories. Very awkward, very odd. The Doctor does some TARDIS tinkering, he fixes the TARDIS wall, and he goes out to explore the ship as he notices everything's in like a period setting, like it's from the 1912s, the year the Titanic fell, but he notices that there is things that don't really make sense. There seems to be robot servants, and there's also a very small red alien guy. We'll get onto him, and nobody seems to be biting an eyelid. And then the Doctor looks out the window and it clicks, and the pre-credit sequence ends with the revelation that this is a ship, a Titanic ship, a ship inspired by the Titanic, I should say, but it's actually a spaceship hovering around on Earth during Christmas Eve. Basically, this ship is a cruise ship, and it's going around Earth to celebrate earthly traditions, specifically Christmas, and then it'll go back to its orbit, and that's basically the setup of the story. And yes, it's incredibly corny, it's incredibly silly, but I actually kind of like this idea, and it's just something it's got that. It has a great atmosphere. The production values in this story are incredibly well handled. I also want to point out how strange of a decision it was to have James Strong direct this story. He has directed in previous stories episodes like The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit, and in Torchwood episodes like Cyberwoman, in which he's very good at dark, atmospheric, and almost devil-like, especially in episodes like They Keep Killing Susie. He has this theme of picking usually darker stories, and now he's in a Christmas story, and now he's basically has to like adjust to make it feel very cheerful and happy and very Christmassy, because the BBC won't allow us to have dark Christmas specials, unlike Big Finish, who are known for their really dark Christmas themed episodes. But anyway, the Doctor disguises himself as one of the people there. He wears his suit, which he has previously worn in episodes like The Age of Steel and The Lazarus Experiment. Very nice. And he seems to be enjoying himself and getting and meeting with the crew, and we get to basically look around and we see a bunch of characters that we will follow throughout the adventure. And at this moment in time, nothing hostile is happening at the moment, apart from an experience the Doctor has when he talks to one of the robots, which are now known as the Heavenly Host, in which like they basically give information to people who are there, but it seems to be malfunctioning. I love the bit where the Heavenly Host starts ticking its head like that, as in it's broken, and you can just see David Tennant's Doctor just also copying as if to go like, what the hell is going on? And then the staff then take that, and it's revealed then that there have been a few Heavenly Hosts that have been malfunctioning, and in fact one of them almost killed one of the passengers. So clearly there's something happening there. But the Doctor gets introduced to a handful of characters. One of them, of course, being what's her name again? Astrid. Astrid, played by Kylie Minogue. And Kylie Minogue, she surprisingly is a pretty good actress. Like, I could have easily seen an entire series with Astrid, but she was not long for this world, because I think this story plays her up way too much to be a perfect companion. And I remember watching it thinking, she's not gonna last long. Like, right off the bat, she strictly talks to the Doctor about how she thirsts for adventure. She actually took this job because she wanted to see the universe. She wanted to explore, finally go on to a new planet. But as soon as she got the job, she was just a waitress, like she was back on her home planet. And basically, the Doctor takes a liking to her through that. This is probably also one of the first stories in the revived series with the 10th Doctor that has no mention of Rose. So that story gets a plus from me. We also see this very, I wouldn't say corrupt, but a very egotistical businessman who's on the phone all the time talking about his profits and stuff. He's played by this really famous actor from one of the soaps. I believe he would play the baddie in, I think it was Coronation Street. Somebody could easily comment on me down below. He's a great actor in that, but I feel like in here he easily was cast because he's good at playing villains. We also have this couple who seem to be bullied on the cruise because they didn't pay for the tickets. They won it in a lottery, and they were told that it would be a fancy dress. So they wore fancy dress, not realising, everybody was wearing 1912 period setting. So they got like these ridiculous purple costumes. And there's also a lot of fat jokes against them. I do like the scene in which people on the other table are laughing and the Doctor's like befriending them, and then the Doctor's like, can't have that, and he sneaks his sonic screwdriver under his arm and it pops the cork, and everybody who's laughing gets covered in alcohol. So like right off the bat, these people have this friendship with each other, this group of characters. We also have Baffa-Caffa-Latter. Baffa-Caffa-Latter is the red little small guy that we've seen earlier on the story. The guy who plays Baffa-Caffa-Latter has played multiple Doctor Who villains in the past. Specifically, he was the Mox of Alboon, and he was the Grask. Have we talked about the Grask yet? Yes, we have, in Attack of the Grask. So he's kind of used to playing Doctor Who monsters, and for the first time in his career, he gets a prominent role as he is one of the main characters in this story. And so we get a scene then in which all of these people get transported thanks to this device that was given to them by this man called Mr. Copper. And Mr. Copper, he has basically, he's supposedly the Earth expert, but part of the humour is that he really doesn't know anything about human culture, believing that Christmas is actually a violent time when people go, every year people go to war with turkey and then eat them. They worship the god Claus, who has like sharp claws, get it? No, the Great God Santa, who has vicious claws. And he judges people whether they've been naughty or nice. So, like, his understanding of human culture is very limited. We also get one of the scenes in which, they teleport onto Earth, the Doctor worrying that Baffa will be noticed because Christmas would be one of the most busiest times, and they're going to notice a little red person just walking around. But when they land on Earth, it turns out it's deserted, almost deserted that is, as the Doctor and Astrid, they look around, and I love the reaction. The Doctor's like, what's going on? There seems to be this mystery. It's like, why is everybody? Why is there nobody here? Something's wrong. And Astrid's just like, I love this place. I love these alien shops. The planet stinks. I love it. And look, there's no stars in the skies. It's just absolutely amazing. This place is absolutely wonderful. And the Doctor's just like, is it? It's only a street. But, it has that that feeling that, like, Astrid has no idea. And to her coming to Earth, modern day Earth, is the equivalent of a human going to her planet and looking at the amazing stuff of her home world. So I really like that. But this scene is mainly memorable for the only human character it's the only human character in the story, I just realised. As the Doctor goes to a little corner shop thing, I don't know what that thing is, and talks to the only human that seems to be there, an old guy played by, oh my god, what's his name? Bernard Crimmins. There's one guy there played by Bernard Crimmins. Why is that important? Well, you see, Bernard Crimmins here was supposed to be playing a character of non-importance. He was supposed to be just a little cameo. Bernard Crimmins, of course, is a big British actor who has actually appeared in the Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies. So that's really cool. Here's supposed to be just a fun little cameo, and wasn't supposed to be seen again. However, due to changing plans in Series 4, Russell T Davies saw a chance to bring Bernard Crimmins in and retcon his character as Wilfred Moff, aka Donna's grandfather. So that is really cool. That's his first appearance, and he has his cameo role. And right off the bat, Bernard Crimmins just shows how lovable he is. It's a very small scene, so I won't go into too depth into it. But right off the bat, we see his patriotic intent, and he has this kind of old war soldier, he used to be Grandad from Only Fools and Horses. He reminds me a lot of Grandad from Only Fools and Horses. But then something happens in which Doctor and Astrid and all of the other people on this journey get teleported back to the Titanic, and there seems to be some sort of power drainage, so they had to be teleported back to the ship, and the Doctor asks what's been going on. Let me find out, but they're keeping stuff hidden and secret. So the Doctor basically breaks into a computer system and discovers that something is wrong. There are asteroids that seem to be magnetized towards the Titanic. In fact, the Titanic shields are low and they're down. What's going on? Somebody is sabotaging. This is something that's on purpose, as the asteroids start hitting the ship, killing almost everyone on board, leaving only a handful of survivors. We also see some heavenly host kill some people, implying that this is some sort of a deliberate conspiracy. And the Doctor basically has to look after these small group of characters that we've been introduced throughout the start of the story. So basically, Act 1 is ended, Act 2 is about to begin, as the Doctor basically tries to get all these characters to the hull of the ship so that they would be at least safe for the most part, as well as getting the engines working so that the ship will not crash into the Earth, because the engines are down and it's about to crash onto the planet of Earth. Also as well, the TARDIS gets ripped out because it was in a room that was destroyed, and it starts heading towards Earth. So the Doctor's basically on his own for the moment as he basically bands together with this group of characters. Now, here, like, a lot of issues come with this story for its silliness. It is very silly, and there's no real way of defending it. The narrative just kind of stops for a majority of story, so that we can have these fun little gags and stuff. And the story, despite having a bunch of people die and murder, it has a very light tone, oddly enough, and we get like scenes after scenes of silly moments, but not like, they're not ridiculously silly. It's not like really ridiculous. But I feel like James Strong might not have been the best choice for this story. I know what you're thinking. I'm a huge James Strong fanboy when it comes to his Doctor Who work as well. But I feel like here he was basically had to work outside of his element, which might have been a great risk. You know, he's usually known for darker stories, and now he's basically told to do a really light-hearted Christmas special. And I feel like for the most part, it does come off as really silly. With like when we go to the evil henchman layer, the camera is tilted, like it's like there's lots of moments which remind me of like the 60s Batman with some of the effects and stuff. The budget though seems like it's very like high standards, and I feel like when it comes to the directing, that all focus was taken away from the story. James Strong was like, right, I'm making a fun, silly directing. Right, let's not focus on what the camera's doing in terms of telling this story. Let's use the camera to just give us some awesome visuals, because there's a lot of moments which are very comic booky, very cheesy, and for something that looks epic and something that's visually pleasing, this story is just immensely awesome in that. This story looks gorgeous. There's some really great close-ups of David Tennant. There's one where he like falls to the floor, he looks up and his head spinning around. That reminds me a lot of like a comic book panel. We also got the famous I am the Doctor, I'm a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castorus. I'm 903 years old, and I'm about to save your lives and all 6 billion people on the planet below. That famous speech where he's like slowly he walks up to the camera for a little bit as the sparks go underneath behind him. When the story is just focusing on having a blast, it does kind of meld and work together. Like that moment there where it's like, right, James Strong is like, right, this scene is supposed to be epic, let's make it epic. And Russell T Davies is like, right, this scene is epic, let's make it epic. But when there's scenes of tension, when there's scenes of dread, James Strong still directs it like this campy story throughout the entire story. And because of that, some elements of the story are a bit too silly to process. We get a laughably bad scene in which one of they basically get onto this platform where there's a bridge leading to one side of the room to the other, as the engines down below that could stop at any moment. So, and one of the characters is complaining because the couple are too overweight in that they're going to break the bridge, and one of the characters is like, don't worry, this metal is really strong, I can, and then like he falls underneath as the metal underneath him collapse. That bit was laughably bad. Like, everything about that scene just did not work. And the story kind of plays off like a comedy. It's a light-hearted comedy. But sometimes that light-hearted tone goes against what the narrative's trying to say. Especially when it comes to the Heavenly Host, and it's supposed to be this terrifying force of nature. Well, not force of nature, but this terrifying force of unstoppable creatures. And they're just not that threatening in the story. And one of the most silly scene. Again, there's one scene which could have been, which is written in a way to enhance the tension, to enhance the thrill of the adventure, which turns out that, you know, they can fly, and they've stopped banging on the door, and they come down to them whilst they throw their rings, whilst all the characters are trying to get past this very fragile bridge. But the way that scene is shot, the way it's directed, it's so light-hearted. It's so, oh, this moment's supposed to be the epic moment, the conclusion of which, and the music is all blasting out loud heroically, that we never get the sense of danger in this scene, which is a big, huge problem, because, you know, they're supposed to be on a bridge that's very narrow and is very fragile. And you know, that is an issue. We also have this sort of little subplot with Astrid and Baffa which gets set up and then quickly is part of the narrative, in which it turns out Baffa is a cyborg. We also get mentions that on their planet that all these characters are from, cyborgs is actually a minority group that are like basically threatened, as people like hate cyborgs. Apparently the laws for that cyborgs to be married are only recent, and there is a prejudice against cyborgs, and that's like a really like fascinating aspect, you know, people, you know, having people against other people just surviving through robotics. Like, it's sort of similar to the Cybermen, but these are good characters. Like, where does that line draw? But the story never focuses on that element. The aspect of Baffa being a cyborg is mainly just so we can set up this this plot element where he has this device in his chest which can explode and fry all electrical circuits around him. Also, when we're talking about silly scenes, Baffa hide no more. Baffa tired. Baffa cyborg! Poof! That was silly. That seems like something that should have been in a superhero movie in the early 2000s. Not in a epic Doctor Who Christmas special. Like, that is silly. And the Doctor basically gets everybody safe, and he's about to head into the engines, and he basically tricks the heavenly host because he's not a passenger, he's a stowaway, and a stowaway must be taken to the highest person of authority, tricking the robots to take them to their leader. And it turns out that the person doing this is actually the owner of the ship itself, Max Capricorn, which we've seen on some screens throughout the entire story. And it turns out that he is this cyborg to the point where he's only a humanoid head with like in this like massive like tank-looking thing. And if we're talking about silly, we're gonna have to talk about Max Capricorn. My God, we're talking about like I've talked about like how this story is like very reminiscent of like cheesy stuff like comic books and the Batman 60s show. This character seems like he came right out of the Adam West era of Batman. Like, he does like the smile and he does the twinkle in his teeth at the start on the screen, and then it turns out that the teeth does actually twinkle and it makes that ding noise. And the doctor's like, well, it really does that. I do love the scene in which the doctor's basically trying to save his life by like speaking. It's like, hold on, let me work it out. I'm very clever at this. I can work this out. Although, script-wise, it is incredibly flawed because we get scenes of Max Capricorn was just like, kill him, and the doctor's like, wait, no, before you do that, let me work this out. And he works it out. Before then, Max Capricorn like sets up a little bit more of the situation, like maybe like the host grabbed the doctor and then goes, kill him. And the doctor's like, no, wait, let me work this out. Your business isn't failing, it's failed. And he goes a little bit more detail before, again, and we have this very aggressive like plot hold, as like there are multiple occasions in which Max Capricorn could have easily just killed the Doctor and gotten away with his plans. It just turns out that his company have basically chucked him out, and he's basically just doing this for revenge. It'll crash into the ship, killing millions of people. There'll be an uproar. All those people that kicked him out will be arrested, and he'll be hiding away on another planet where he will basically live in luxury. Because, you know, where he was from, there was a discrimination against cyborgs. Again, that doesn't really play much into the plot of the narrative, but the point is that this character, on multiple occasions in the scene, has the opportunity to kill the Doctor. There's no reason why he needs to, why he shouldn't just kill the Doctor. But you know, you can't just kill the Doctor. And so Russell T Davies has done kind of like, he's basically backed himself in his own corner, as the Doctor basically has to just go, no, wait, let me just have some dialogue, and then I will think of something. Okay, Wait, we're not at the time minute yet of the ending. Right, we're gonna just do this. Keep going until right. Okay, we're at this point in the episode. So now you can end it. As it turns out, Astrid, she teleported and heard all of the dialogue, realizing that Max Capricorn is the villain, and so she gets into this vehicle and pushes Max Capricorn into the engines. However, there's no way of really doing it without pushing it, and so Astrid sacrifices herself to destroy Max Capricorn and pushes the vehicle down with them. Like, this is another element. There's this story then goes for a short moment in slow motion, and it's one, and again, this is a perfect example of the story. Visually, on a purely visual note, it does look good, but it's also incredibly cheesy as well, and does take away from the tension of the scenes, especially when you have the Doctor in slow motion going, no, as Kylie Minogue is falling through the sky. But we also get this really awesome shot of David Tennant just walking as there's explosions behind him, almost James Bond-like, as he's wearing like a suit as well. And then we get probably one of the most corniest scenes. The Doctor puts his arms out like this. Two hosts get up behind him, and the Doctor clicks his fingers, and the hosts grab onto his arm, and they fly up to the cockpit of the ship, to which the Doctor then does his stuff and tries to fix the engines from the cockpit. It's here that he gets. He's been talking to his character through the comms throughout the story, but it's here where he finally meets his character, and basically he asks his name so that he can say like Alonzi, but it turns out this character is Alonso. This is a reference to Army of Ghosts, in which the Doctor basically comes up with his catchphrase and says that he one day wants to meet Alonso, so he can say Alonso. And so the ship starts crashing, and the Doctor's actually like kind of pushing the ship into Earth's atmosphere in the hopes that it will heat up the engines enough so that he can pick the ship back up. And it turns out that the ship's about to land on Buckingham Palace, as the Queen was one of the few people who did not evacuate on Christmas, which was earlier explained with Bernard Crimmins' cameo. Many people have actually left the UK because for the past 2 years, Christmas has been a time when aliens have come to invade planet Earth. Referencing Christmas Invasion and The Runaway Bride. So that's some really cool canonicity right there, and it's really nice that the story does. It's like, right, we're not stupid. We're going to realise, right, there's probably going to be another alien invasion here, so we're going to stay put on this on this. We're gonna skip this one out. So we get the Doctor starts calling Buckingham Palace. He's trying to get the ship back up, and the ship just about crashes into Buckingham Palace. But luckily, it just flies overhead as we get a really corny scene of the Queen waving. It's like, "Thank you, Doctor." And here's a fun fact. This story was actually supposed to end on a much darker note. The original ending, according to Russell T Davies, is that the Buckingham Palace was going to be destroyed, killing the Queen at the end of the story, but was changed to give a much more lighter tone because, hey, it's Christmas. Can you imagine if in the Doctor Who's chronological ordering, the Queen died on Christmas 2007? It's kind of morbid. And also as well, Prince Charles was also supposed to have a cameo as well, but he turned it down. And so our story ends with the Doctor basically taking mourning over the death of Astrid as she had a teleporting device, and the Doctor tries to save her, but it turns out that it was too late, and now she's just atoms, stardust, and the Doctor has to let her go in a really sad scene, which might be a bit, again, over the top, a bit silly, a bit too much. It's a bit too overplayed to be emotionally grabbing. I didn't burst into tears anyway. But what did kind of get me going is that throughout the story there's this revelation that Mr. Copper, he is actually a fraud. He didn't actually go to university, and when the police are going to investigate this Titanic incident, they're going to find out he's a fraud, and they're going to put him in prison for 10 years, and he knows for a fact that he won't have 10 years left to live. And so at the end of the story, the Doctor basically helps him transport, so he escapes to Earth. Now, Mr. Copper has actually gained himself some credits, put some credits on a credit card so that he can pay for all of the crew members when they were teleporting on the Earth earlier on in the episode. And it turns out he's actually a millionaire. He misjudged the calculations, and it turns out that he's got a lot of money. And so he basically, and like throughout the story, we feel that like he's homeless, or at least he was homeless at one point before being a fraud of this university, like expert on Earth in Earthonomics. And here he can finally get a chance to have a home, to have a garden, to have a kitchen, and he just cheers the Doctor. That bit, I will admit, like that bit really got to me. But the Doctor announces like, no, I travel alone. I'm gonna stay on my own from now on. As the Doctor gets into his TARDIS and leaves, concluding Voyage of the Damned, as well as concluding an entire story arc of these episodes. So that's Voyage of the Damned. Overall, it's a pretty silly Doctor Who episode. If you're looking for something a bit grittier, a bit more like fun and energetic as well, I don't think the story's for you. This story is mainly corny cheesiness. If you're looking for some corny cheesiness, I think this story is actually a lot of fun in that sense. It has some really iconic moments. You can see that visually, it's absolutely stunning. You can see a lot of money has been put into this story. And so, there you go. That's Voyage of the Damned. Pretty meh, but it does have some few saving graces. So, join me next time when Jack and the Tortured team reunite and they uncover a secret agent of sorts. Someone from Jack's personal past. So join me next time for Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. And have a merry, merry Christmas. And I'll see you next time. Ta-ra.